East West Connection has partnered with the Selective Corporate Internship Program, known as SKIP, to provide career experiences to their fellows in Ralph's departments of East West Connection, such as finance, human resources, operations, the creative and technology divisions. So to tell you a little bit about SKIP, it was founded in 1997. It's a 501c3 founded by Monica and Miguel Mancebo, and their goal, their vision has always been to prime the pipeline for the next generation of global leaders. So it prepares diverse undergraduate, graduate, and MBA students to matriculate as leaders in corporate America. So with that said, on the phone today are two SKIP fellows that are here representing the entire SKIP Dream team, Mark Mancebo and Unique Divine. We invited them on the call to audit the call. It's part of a mentoring opportunity for them to see how communications, public relations, and interviewing works, and also participate in the interview with some questions. So with that, if both of you, Mark and Divine, will just tell Nana a little bit about yourself and ask your questions.
Sure. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mark Mancebo. My background, I went to New York Military Academy for high school. From there, I went to Penn State University where I majored in communications, and also really got heavily involved in music through my background. Through there, yeah, definitely. I performed a lot throughout the city, and was really heavy on the hip hop side of music. But yeah, so professional background. I also work in robotics, more so on the sales and marketing side. And yeah, it's just an amazing pleasure to be speaking with you today for sure.
Oh, hello. This is Unique. So
Thank you. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
Oh, I can go a bit into my background. Can
Hello?
everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm
Yes.
So I'm from Texas. I grew up there and went to the East Coast for to go to college and everything. I studied physics in undergrad, but for the longest time, my background was in music. I was heavy into saxophone and took a hard turn at the beginning of undergrad and started studying physics. And now I'm a graduate student at Columbia and working as an artificial intelligence engineer. And I am new to SKIP. I just met Miguel Mancebo and Monica, the founders of SKIP, about a month and a half ago through a good friend of mine. His mom has been a longtime contact of them and introduced me. And so we had a sort of exploratory interview there. And it's been a great time and I'm learning a lot.
Great. I love your name.
Thank you.
Unique, if you want to, you can start.
Yeah. So one question I had, I was really curious. I saw an article about you for when you were appointed chairwoman of the board for the Universal Hip Hop Museum. And they talk about how you grew up in Grenada and your parents were activists. And I was curious to hear more about that and how that shaped, your journey moving forward into as a female executive.
Okay, I wasn't born in Grenada, but I worked in Grenada during the time that it was a revolutionary government. That was 1980 to 83. And my parents were activists. I had four parents, a mother, a father, a stepmother, and a stepfather. And all four were movement people. My father and stepmother were union organizers. My mother and stepfather were educators, and my stepfather was what they called a public intellectual before even public intellectuals was a word, right? But he was one of the people who had popularized the word African American, Afro American, rather than Negro, and he in fact was one of the people who convinced Malcolm X to stop saying so-called Negro and switch to African American, and so that was the background that I came out of, and then I went to Grenada on purpose. I had gone first. I went as a reporter to celebrate the first anniversary of the revolution, and I was so impressed by a former colonial country, full of led by Black people, changing the nature of the country and making it switch from serving Britain to actually serving the needs of Grenadians themselves. And I was helping to run the television station there. And so my job was to basically document the day-to-day operation of what it takes to really run a revolution, what it really takes to transform a society. And it was an extraordinary experience. I came back to the United States after 3 years and made a documentary about it. And just as we were producing the film, the revolution imploded, and then the United States invaded, and so the revolution was over. But I always had in my mind, I have now seen a government, and I've seen a power structure that was designed to serve people rather than to use people, and that has transformed how I did everything. And so when I went to work, when I worked for Russell Simmons, I had in my mind that our organization needed to follow that same example. We needed to be a Black-led organization that met its needs of all of its people. And it changed how it impacted how I saw the videos that we produced. I was very distressed when gangster rap took over and became like the popular music. I much preferred it when during the golden era of hip hop, which when my artists for Public Enemy, LL Cool J, Slick Rick, we had not been pushing robbing people, hurting people, and whatnot. And I felt that it was actually one of the main reasons that I left the entertainment business was because I saw this direction and I was not able to really follow that. So I left there and I went into the academia. But certainly my upbringing as the child of movement people, and then becoming a movement person myself, has impacted every aspect of my life. And so then when I moved into ministry, and I went to seminary I'd quit Def Jam and went to seminary, right? So it was a big turnaround. But I participate in liberation theology. I'm not with the liberation theology. I think Christ was on the side of the poor side of this, and that we, as his followers, need to serve of the people. So even in my ministry, my activism plays a role.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw you've actually gotten a lot into more philanthropic work. I saw for Children's Health Fund.
Yes.
At Sarah Lawrence College for
yes.
fundraising.
Yes.
I guess
yes.
There's probably more than that. Can I hear more about some of that work as well?
Well, my first experience with philanthropy was actually at the Film Fund. When I left Grenada, before I got into the entertainment business, I was the executive director of an organization called the Film Fund, and we raised money from people with inherited wealth to support film and television about social change. And my boss there, with chair of the board, was a man named George Pillsbury, and he had inherited his money from he was a Pillsbury. as in Pillsbury Foods. In fact, he was the original Pillsbury Doughboy, right? And he was the person who taught me how to ask people with inherited wealth for money. And he taught me the whole process of asking people, of making people know who you were, what your organization was, what your project was, and then finding a way to connect to their interests and their philanthropic interests. Philanthropy is another thing that feels good to do. People do enjoy, once they become a philanthropist, they enjoy the process of supporting another person, of empowering another person, of sharing their empowerment with other people. And it's it's not just a tax write-off. It's a personal commitment. And to find a way to help to tap into that part of a person and to connect them with somebody in need, I find to be a very rewarding job. To be the facilitator between the philanthropist and the project is what I do. And I did it. I was at Sarah Lawrence for 14 years, raising money primarily from alumni, but also from other people for programs that the school ran. So we raised money for the diversity programs. We raised money for chairs. We raised money for particular areas of study, but always looking for the way that the philanthropist felt what was important to the philanthropist and finding a project that would match their interest. When I was at the Film Fund, it was more about the subject matter, right? So that we were doing a film about, one of our films was done by a filmmaker named Barbara Koppel, Harlem County, USA, and she won an Academy Award for it. But it was about unions and coal miners. Right. So finding a philanthropist who had a commitment to unions was my job, right? And then to introduce them to this filmmaker and to this project. We had a whole fund that was based on films that were about the women's movement and women's right to choose and women's right to be empowered. And so we found feminist philanthropists and asked them to support these films that could support the work of people who were involved in the women's movement. So I guess that my role as the facilitator between these things was the part that gave me, and I'm now doing it now again with the Universal Hip Hop Museum, looking for philanthropists who have a passion for hip hop and also have a passion for history and want us to track the entire history of hip hop worldwide, universally.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm curious.
Hello?
Yeah. So I'm curious for some of the.
Hello?
I guess some of your difficulty. Oh, can you hear me? Oh wait.
Nana, can you hear him? Okay.
Oh, okay. So
yes.
with with being
yes,
a female executive and your time as a president of Def Jam and in other places, what were some of the difficulties associated with that? Like, what were some of the things you learned as far as navigating a male-dominated industry, and I guess advice you would pass on for young women today that have similar aspirations?
I would say that the main thing I had to learn was self-confidence. The men would just routinely believe that I was Russell's secretary or Russell's assistant. I had to make clear all the time. I had to establish that no, I was not his secretary. I was the president of his company, and that while he had the vision, it was my job to operationalize his vision. And so people, I had a staff who worked for me, and I was not a secretary, right? And it was a constant. I had to do that, I would say, once a month. I had to, make clear to somebody in the industry. It required that I was clear about who I am, and that I had a relationship with my boss that made it that where he supported my my authority, and I had to be, it's being a Black woman in particular. You do come away with the feeling that you have to, you have to give 110%. You can't just be good, you have to be great. And I just always had the feeling that I had to bring it at all times. Right? I had the sense that even if I wasn't under the microscope for other people, I felt that I was under a microscope for myself, to make sure that at all times I was representing myself as I wanted to be received. And I think that that's what I pass on to younger women. And the other thing that I do pass on to other people, is younger women in particular, is to learn learn something about the business aspect of whatever they're into. Learn how to do a balance sheet. Learn how to figure out profits and loss. It will change how you view your business, the company that you work for, if you understand where the money is coming from and where it's going. And that's something that many people, not just women, but certainly women, shy away from, and more go to the creative parts and not the business parts. But most people are in business to make money. Even nonprofits, have to raise money, if not make money. And people need to not be afraid to understand that aspect of the business, and to pay attention to it, and to incorporate that into their own understanding of their own particular aspect of the work.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Any more questions?
Yeah, let's I guess I'll go ahead and pass it off to Mark. Don't want to take all our time.
Sure. Thank you, Unique. Thank you.
Okay.
Once again, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure speaking with you, Ms. Ashhurst. So I know that music is a huge part of your life. So I just wanted to ask you the question: what sparked your interest in your passion for music?
Oh, well, as a kid, as a teenager, I was a party girl. I liked going to parties. I liked dancing. I came up during the Motown era. And so when I wanted to get I was also a big TV fan. So my master's degree is in broadcast journalism. In fact, I went to Boston University before Ralph did. Ralph and I both went to you, right? But my graduate degree. And so I decided that what I wanted to do for a living was something that matched for which I was passionate about, so that I would enjoy the work and would not think of it as work, but would think of it as joy. And so I first pursued a career in television. And I did that. I was in television for 10 years, I guess. Wow. And then after that, I went to work for the Film Fund. And then from there, we were doing fundraising events and we involved a lot of artists, in our events. And I realized that I enjoyed working with artists and I enjoyed being around music. And so when I left the Film Fund, I just networked with every single person I knew who had anything to do with the music business in any way. And one of the people I reached out to was a man named Bill Adler, who I knew from Boston when I was in school, and he was the music critic at the Boston Herald. and he was now the publicist at Def Jam. And he hired me to be his publicist, which was a step down from what I had been doing, but which got me into this field that I wanted to be in. And I started working with him in April, and by September, I had moved up to being Russell's assistant. And within a year, he made me vice president of the company and then president of the company. So I had a pretty meteoric rise at Def Jam. But in all cases, it was I wanted to do something where I would not feel that the work was a drudgery, but that I would feel that work was something that I wanted to do and I would look forward to. So, I followed my passion.
Oh,
And I've been lucky and blessed enough to have it work out.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
The other area that in addition to music, my other area is comedians, right? We did the Russell Simmons Def Comedy Jam,
Right.
and that we introduced 200 Black comedians to the world, and of them, many of them have become international stars. So I have a real connection to the comedy world as well.
For sure. That's funny. That was actually going to be my next question. I'm a huge comedy fan. Definitely like Bernie Mac to Dave Chappelle to Mike Lawrence, everyone that was a part of, Def Comedy Jam. So that was going to be my next question.
Yes.
Where is that idea, to curate, Def Comedy Jam and to put all of those key comedians together and make it sort of a movement, so to speak.
Yes. Well, it was Russell Simmons and Stan Lathan had the idea to do a television show, a stand-up comedy show for Black comedians. And then we hired the guy who was actually my assistant at the time was a guy named Bob Sumner, who ran a comedy club in Jersey. And so we asked him, and he became the talent scout, and he set up open mics around the country at Black comedy clubs around the country to discover talent. And so he was the talent person. He was the person who actually brought all these people together. And he now runs a company called Laugh Mob, where he continues to develop new comedians, primarily Black comedians. So he has white and Asian comedians as well. And he has a show on True Television called Laugh Tracks. But his Laugh Mob is a movement. He is the person who really tries to keep the Black comedians connected to one another, even as they go on to have separate careers.
Oh, that's awesome.
We thought, we had no idea that that the comedians we had no idea that we would become the #1 show on HBO at that time. I mean, that was pretty amazing. And then we did not know that our comedians would break out in the way that they have. So it changed. It definitely impacted the culture.
Big time. I feel like the platform itself launched a lot of careers through Def Comedy Jam. So it's legendary for sure. Definitely in the culture for sure. It's legendary. So my next question would be, I know you kind of delved into it a little bit prior to, as far as the state that you feel that hip hop currently is. I know for yourself, you grew up in the golden era with KRS,
Yes.
Cool J, and those real pioneers, Rakim. So I just wanted to hear you more so as far as like your thoughts on the current state of hip hop right now.
I have both a troubled sense and a positive sense. I'm troubled that so much of hip hop has become not just materialistic, but sexualized, to a degree that is not healthy. There's some aspect of, all music is going to have some sex in it because, it's a part of our dating life. So we You know, you know, we, you know, to think that popular music is not going to talk about love and sex is just crazy. Of course it is, but it doesn't have to be crass. It doesn't have to be coarse. It doesn't have to demean women. It doesn't have to demean gay and lesbians. You know, and I find that a lot of the music today does that, precisely does that, and focuses on money. At the same time, there's a lot of hip hop today that is broader than that, that is trying to do, that is thinking about its impact on the culture and taking it seriously. I mean, we obviously, people like Common do it more obviously, intentionally, but there's a whole almost underground movement of artists who are both rappers and actors and comedians, you know, the whole entertainment spectrum, who use hip hop as a way to reach out to people, to engage young people and to engage people politically. And as I said, the Black Lives Matter movement is filled with people who have been engaged by hip hop and encouraged by hip hop to get into political activity. So that aspect of it, I like a lot.
Sure, for sure.
And I certainly like that it's become an international phenomenon.
Most definitely. Hip hop has grown so much, even from when I was younger to where it is right now. You know, I've seen it evolve so many different times, and it's still continuing to evolve. Just speaking more so for, you know, on the artist side. So say for instance, a young up and coming artist, you know, right now, what would you say, what type of advice would you give to them in order to maneuver and be successful within the music industry today?
I can't really say that I know. I think that you know, I come from an era when the record labels dominated how you get into the business, and that's not true anymore, right? So I hesitate to give young people advice on how to get into the music business now, because I actually think they know more about it than I do. You know, my son who is also a comedian, but he dabbled in music for a while, and I just saw that he was producing his own music, you know, on his computer, and then uploading it to various platforms, YouTube and other platforms, and developing a following for himself before reaching out to a label. And I think that that's what most people have to do, you know, is to have to establish a fan base on their own, even before going to somebody else for distribution. But distribution is always the key piece. How you manage to get your music distributed or your art distributed is the challenge. You know, one thing that I learned from Russell that has stuck with me a lot was that we don't make records, we sell records. Right. And you know, you're not, you know, you can be an artist and not sell it, but you're not a professional musician or a professional comedian until you actually start bringing in money, right? Until you have fans, until you have a following. And so you, but it's a tricky thing to do now. I think it's an exciting period of time because the artist is able to control their own masters and own their own music. But how you actually break through, I'm afraid that I'm not the best person to ask. Right?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, with the internet now, like you mentioned before, through YouTube and social media, you know, you could definitely generate your own following, which is it definitely changes the dynamics of just music in general. So that's definitely great. So for you, I know that you're a mentorship and being a mentor to so many people such as Mr. Weaver and countless others. What as far as happened in your life, or what transpired that made you want to give back or become a mentor to other people?
Well, primarily it was my parents. I saw how they mentored other people, and many of their mentees became like almost like siblings to me. They were so much a part of my mother's life in particular, that the young people that my mother was a language teacher, and she would get several of her students. Black students didn't really gravitate to foreign languages, but she would help them to get into even Chinese, to learn Chinese and Russian and other, not just Spanish and French, but to expand their horizons. And I saw, these young people would become part of her social network. As she was, when she went back to school to study Chinese, she took some students, her students with her. And some of those my mother has now been dead for 20 years, but several of her mentees keep in touch with me just as a testimony to their respect for her and their admiration for what she did in their lives. And so I wanted to have the same kind of impact on other people that my parents had on their mentees. And I have found that mentoring was by far the most rewarding part of being in the entertainment business. And my mentees have now surpassed me in the entertainment business. They've gone on to run divisions, run business, run organizations. They've started new businesses. They've become filmmakers. They've just gone on to have an impact on the entertainment business and on the culture that was much broader than anything I would have done by myself or on my own. And to just see that has been such a reward to me. It really blesses me to see that.
That's awesome. I definitely commend you just to give your time, to give back, and just to give selflessly of your time. That's definitely commendable. And for my last question, I know we were speaking with Mr. Weaver the other day. He mentioned that you were in the process of writing a book. I don't know if you finished it or you're still working on that.
Oh no, I haven't finished it. I've been working on it for years, but now it looks like I'm going to have to finish it because pandemic has changed the course of my income. So, and it's also given me enough time to actually focus on it. Okay. But yes, I'm writing a memoir. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to buy it. Can't wait to read it.
Thank you. I can't wait to finish it.
So thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. It was an
Don't go
honor.
anywhere yet, Nana. Don't go anywhere yet. Are you, Mark and
Okay.
Monique, is that all of your questions, or do you have anything additional?
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
All right.
good.
Okay, I just Nana, there's just two questions that came to mind that I wanted to ask and I didn't ask. You got about 2 more minutes, maybe?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just that if there are 3 things to describe you, what are they?
Oh my.
3 things, 3 words.
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe I can make it a little simpler.
Well, let's start with kind. I'll go with kind.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What was the other? I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
I didn't come up with another one. Socially conscious. I would say socially conscious.
Okay.
And a mother. And a mother.
Mother. Okay. And then the second question is, if there are 3 things you look for in people, what are they?
Commitment, humor,
Okay.
social commitment, humor, and kindness.
Kindness. Okay, great. Okay. Before we wrap, I just want to say I know what you were talking about the museum, and it's really exciting with all of that coming up, the groundbreaking and all. But I wanted to offer you, and maybe at some point we'll have an opportunity to talk. My brother wrote Styling and Profiling with Bill Adler. Do you remember that book with Janet Beckman? He did all the style.
Really? Yes.
Yeah, my brother was Tom Terrell.
Yes. Oh, how amazing.
Yeah,
oh my
well,
goodness.
Tom died in
All right.
he
all
died
right.
in 2007. But we've got
Oh,
lots
so
and
sorry.
lots and lots of. My brother has like 40 years of photos. So I know some of the things that we had, we lent them to the Smithsonian for the African American Museum of Arts and Culture. But when you get to that point, maybe there may be some things that we would be able to lend for your museum.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. My
Yeah.
stepsister is a curator at that museum. She's at the
in Washington?
Smithsonian.
What's her name? 'Cause
Yes.
I know we've been working with.
That-
What's her name?
Diana and John.
Okay, because we've been talking with them because my brother has such a huge library of recorded things, and so we've been working with them. It looks like we're going to lend them the content, all of these tape interviews, and then they're going to digitize them so that when people do research, they can pull them down and things like that. So he just left an incredible library of like 44, well now probably 50 years, because he would have been 70 this year, yeah. 50 years of music, world music, hip hop, this, that, and the other. So we probably, like I said, we know a lot of the same people, Vivian Goldman and Amy Linden, and a lot of those people. I'm fortunate that I met them through my brother, and we've kept in touch.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I appreciate that. So
Wow.
if I have any questions, I'm going to write this, put this together. If I have any questions, I believe I have your number, because that's how we were supposed to contact originally. And with that, I want to say thank you for your time. I hope your stepmom continues to do well, and God bless you for all you do.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Same to you. Same to you.
And Unique. Definitely.
Have a
Definitely.
great
Take
day.
care of yourself.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
And good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.